Hello friends, I'm Nancy with Simply Quilting. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. I would like to show you today how I'm making these cute pumpkin blocks. I was given all of these checks and plaids in different colors. They were just in a big pile of scraps in some boxes that a very precious friend brought to our quilting group, and I looked through those. These were in all different shapes and just everything you could imagine, and so I cut as many 8.5-inch squares as I could, and as you can see I wound up with quite a few. So I'm going to use a method where I stack up. I'm going to make 4 blocks at a time. Well, for this video I'm going to make one, but I'm going to cut out 4 blocks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4 of these blocks, or these squares. That's kind of a gold one. Let's do a green, sort of a plaid. And then how about a light blue contrast? And then maybe a red. I don't have any orange, but I'm not making these for Halloween or anything. I'm just doing them for fall. Okay, I have my 4 stacked up. Now for this, all I have to do is pick an area to cut. You can do it any direction that you'd like to, but keep them stacked up together until you're ready to stitch. I usually start by making a corner, cutting off a corner. I try not to make any straights, any that are like squares or anything like that. They're all just kind of different. Okay, and then let's do this one. And put them all back in order here. Now I'll take the first one on the top on my corner unit here, and I'll put it on the bottom, bring the other 3 to the top. The next one I will take, well, I guess that's the next one I cut. It doesn't really matter, but I'll take the first 2 and put them on the bottom, and then I'll take 3 and put them on the bottom. That means I'll just bring the back one to the front, and I'll leave that one intact. So I've laid out just one of these blocks, and I'm going to go ahead and start stitching it together. I'm going to start with these 2 because they meet up so well. And also they were the last ones that I cut apart, so they'll be the first ones to go back together. 1/4 inch. Now, of course, if I was making all 4 of these at once, which I would normally do, I would go ahead and stitch all of the ones together that were these 2 pieces. And then this one goes next. Let me press this one down a little bit. They go together much easier when they are flat. What I try to do is just to center my pieces, so you'll notice I have a little tiny bit showing on each end of the gold color. And then I'll go ahead and press that. And then we're ready for our last piece. I'm going to take that little extra part right there off. You wouldn't have to, but it's works better. Now I believe this is a bias edge right here, so I'm going to be careful not to stretch and pull that. I'm going to put a clip in the center so I don't let it slide one way or the other. Okay. Now this time I'm going to give it a little bit of starch water with my press. Okay, now we started with an 8-inch square, and we're just a little under 8 inches, but we're going to trim this down to 7.5. That's my 7.5 inch block there. Now I'm going to snowball my little corner units on. They are 2.5 inch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them over and give them a little press instead of drawing the lines. I'm going to take my pins and just pin each one of them on. Lining up my needle with that little crease that I ironed in there. My needle down, raise up my foot, pull it out, leaving the thread attached. And then I'll just go ahead and snip these threads off real quick. And just cut off those two back layers. Leave the top one 1/4 inch or thereabouts. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can do it with scissors or a rotary blade. Either one. And we should still have 7.5. And we do, so we're good there. Now I can decide what I want to be the top. I think I kind of like that. Okay, the next thing is to sew on a 2.5 by 7.5 inch strip on either side. So we'll do that next. Pressing them out to the sashing. Okay, this is the one I was going to make the top. Now the next thing I have to do is build my stem piece, and it will go here, and then I'll build my bottom sashing with my cornerstones. So I'm going to use a 1.5 inch square to build my stem, along with a 2.5 inch. Mine, I'm using just a plain brown for mine, but you could use green or a print of some kind. Something that would stand out a little differently than everything else. And just stitch it on one corner of the stem. That way it'll kind of make the stem look like it's leaning one way or the other. I do have some that are, I have made some with a straight stem, but I kind of like these better. So there's that. Now I'm going to need 2.5 by 3.25 backgrounds to go on either side of the stem. So let's do that real quick. That towards the background. Now when you place this on your main unit, you want to make sure the wide part of your stem is going towards the body of your pumpkin. Okay, now I need to put a cornerstone on each side of that. So I'll pick out a couple of those. I'll take this one of these, and then let's see, how about a red there? I'm just using random colors, it doesn't matter. So you can see that these are going to be pressed towards the background, and so are these. Now, I'm ready to put this on the top of my unit. I am going to clip this on so that I can make sure my seams are nesting as well as I can. We have the top of our unit built. Now we have to do is pick out 2 more cornerstones and another 2.5 by 7.5 background piece, purple. Here, and let's just do a little kind of a neutral. I think it's mostly red and blue and beige. So all I have to do now is stitch these 2 together and add that one, and then we'll be ready to finish this block up. And then I just simply have to attach this one. Our little block measures 10.5 inches. If you were to stitch this into a quilt, it would finish at 10 inches. However, I am using my blocks to make placemats like this. And I did that just by sewing on extra sashings. So in order to do this, I just laid my little block in the center, and I put, I believe these were, let's see, 2.5 inch. These were 2.5 inch. This is all one piece here. And then I put the top a red check and the bottom red check, and then I sewed. And these are 1.5. All of these red checks are just 1.5 inches by whatever length that I needed. Now, I'm also making a table runner to match these. So I'm going to take I've got it on the long arm over there, so I'm going to take the camera over there and show you how I constructed it. Alright, so here is my cute little table runner. I haven't started quilting it yet, but as you can see, I have a lot bigger border around it. I think this was a 3 inch or 3.5 inch. 3.5 inch. I may trim it down a little after I get it quilted, depending on how it fits on my table. I do have a big table, but I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of room to trim it down if I needed to. Here's the one I just finished. And it lays in here like this. But now if you notice, I did not put sashing on either side of all of these because one sashing connects 2 pumpkins. So what I did was I started with the sashing on the left side of each one. I sewed the sashing onto the left side of each one of these. And then I sewed a sashing onto the right side of the last one. And then I just connected these all together. And that's how I came up with my table runner. And let me show you how the placemat will work along with that. And I just happened to have some strips of these, and I thought, oh, how cute would that be on that. I'm not real big into orange type things. I do like it in certain areas, but I thought this would be good to even go for Thanksgiving. So just keep it out through the fall. Okay, that will be it for today, and hope you would like to try this. Wouldn't it be cute with small florals instead of the checks and plaids? That would be really sweet and cute. So I'll be making these pumpkins for a while, I guess. Thanks for joining me today as I show you how I'm making my version of my fall pumpkin. Hope to see you next time. In the meantime, you'll have a blessed week.